Okay. The kitchen noises, so they just close the door, but maybe they can make noise quietly or something. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namale. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nivasesha Sanyavadi Paschati Desatane. Om Ganatamirandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Chakshi Sumiritan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Pandantikam Vanchakopa Tuvischa Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Itanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. As soon as you look the other way, I'll move it. Hare Krishna. Okay. What's the first thing we should do? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you know what the first thing we should do is. Ah, someone who's brave. Yes. Thank you, Paul. Not only brave, but very intelligent. Everyone, turn off your mobile phones. Please. Now, what I would like you to do, just break into small groups of 2 or 3, and just for a few minutes, just discuss Japa. Go ahead. 2 or 3, whoever is convenient. And even if you have 4 of you, it's okay. Okay. Turn off your phone. Of course, you can't tell anyone from Bharatpur what to do. Mataji, I taught in its classroom for so many years. So everyone has to be on their best behavior. Otherwise, out. In India, they have that. We may try that also. But raise your hand if you would like to say something about Japa, because you all have discussed. Raise your hand if you'd like to say something about Japa, and then I will. Okay, you were the first, and yes, just, but loudly so others can hear.
Yes, Krishna says in Kali, like wherever his name is there, he will be physically present in there. So should in Kali, we only Japa is the only way by which we can attain Krishna, because Krishna says whenever a devotee will chant my name, I'll personally live there, I'll bless it.
Where does he say that? Just curious. But as far as I understand, the quotation is that I am present when my devotees are chanting my holy names. Naham tishtami vaikunte. I'm not in Vaikuntha, I'm with the devotees. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else like to say something? Yes, Prabhu. What is your name? You look so familiar.
My name is Nishant Roji.
Hare Krishna Nishant.
I had attended your session previously also when you were in Bangalore.
You don't look any older. I think I'm the only one who looks older. But go ahead. Yes, Prabhu.
discussing with the devotees that last time when you were here, Prabhuji, you had clearly mentioned one thing that when you are chanting between the ears and the mouth, you should focus on the holy name attentively and hear that when you're chanting. Even if your mind meanders, try to bring it back and focus on the holy name and continue chanting. That's what we do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else like to say something? Yes, Mataji.
Similarly to last time when you had come, you told that before we start the japa, we should think of our Ishta Devata, offer our prayers to him in our mind, and then we start the japa.
Why?
So that we can concentrate more on him. He's present in our mind. When we
Yes, but there's another practical reason also, but that is certainly true. Before we begin japa, our chanting, we should become determined about or become conscious of what we're doing and what we are trying to do. Because there's such a tendency with things that we do every day to do them mechanically and unconsciously. So we tend to pick up the beads and just sort of begin and just forget that we're chanting Krishna's names. We forget that we're trying to be attentive. We forget that Krishna is no different from his names. We just begin chanting. And then our mind, we give our mind permission to wander all over the universe unless we are clear and quite determined to be present with Krishna, to try our best to be with Krishna. And that's one of the first points I'd like to make, is that it sounds funny in one sense, peculiar, that Krishna, because you already know this, all of you know this, that Krishna is a person. Krishna is a person. We are personalists as opposed to impersonalists. But do we actually treat Krishna like a person? That's the question. And if we decide that, what does it mean to be a person? Raise your hand. What does it mean to you to be a person? Yes, Paul. Living entity. Yes. Okay, yes, but raise your hand. Oh, yes, I should make it very clear because everyone is IT person here. Raise your hand, but wait till I call on you before you speak. We have to make the instructions very clear, otherwise the program goes in the wrong direction. Yes, Paul.
Has a body or a form?
Has a form, yes. More, yes. Has a name, yes. Reciprocates our feelings. Yes, very interesting. More. What does it mean to be a person? Yes, Paul. Yes, but what does it mean to be a person? Yes, but you're a person and you're not Krishna. Yes, but what does it mean to be a person? He's a big person and we are small persons. But what does it mean to be a person? Yeah, a young person.
serve Prabhupada's mission.
A person can serve Prabhupada's mission, an in-person cannot. Very good. What does it mean to be a person? Yes.
Prabhuji, I think the person takes birth and dies for Krishna.
Okay, that's yes, no. Okay, yes.
Consciousness.
Consciousness. Yes.
He can see us, he can listen us, and he can feel you.
He can see, listen, feel. He's an individual. And can a person not be an individual? What do you think about that? Can a person not be an individual? But you have to raise your hand. How can a person not be an individual? Does a person have to be an individual? Individual means different from everyone else. Just look around the room and you can answer that question very easily. Are any two people in this room exactly the same? Not possible. In fact, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur expresses in one of his commentaries in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 10th canto that because we are individuals, we have some unique characteristic that no one else has. And we have something unique to offer Krishna that no one else can offer Krishna. What do you think about that? We're individuals, and Krishna is an individual. An individual has things they like, that they don't like, they have preferences. Krishna likes butter, he doesn't like political point. No politics here. But individual, he likes cows. Not only does he like cows, he loves cows. He loves the calves, he loves the cows, he loves the bulls. When Krishna was just such a young boy, just perhaps 3 years old, before he even began taking out the calves, he went out with Nanda Maharaj on a bullock cart, and they were herding the bulls. And Krishna and Balaram jumped off the cart and cut from the herd 4 or 5 or 6 bulls and began moving them this way and that way. And bulls was, well, maybe not that big, but they were very big. And Krishna, any 3-year-olds here? No, but 3-year-olds are small. And Krishna and Balaram, and the bulls would run and Krishna and Balaram would stop them, even though they have such big horns. And the bulls loved Krishna. Krishna would call the names of the cows and the cows would respond. He loves the cows and the bulls and the calves. He would even massage the legs of the calves. Sometimes he would touch his forehead to the forehead of the little calves and talk to them. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is so wonderful that Krishna, of all the things, he is the only one who is swatantra. What does swatantra mean? He's independent. He can do anything he wants at any time, be anything. And what is he? He loves Braj. He loves being a cowherd boy. He loves the residents of Vrindavan. He loves village life there. He loves the Yamuna. He walks around without shoes. So Krishna is an individual person. And we each are also individual persons. Now, what if we look at our japa, our chanting of Krishna's names, when we're basically alone, as opposed to kirtan, when we're all chanting together? What if we look at our japa as very private time, just for you to be with Krishna? Now, if we look at our japa as this is my private time to be with Krishna, then how does it, so what's the best mood that I can have in my private time with Krishna? Because we've probably all been in conversations with others, especially if you happen to be married, and the person is not there. You're talking to them and their mind is completely somewhere else. And how do you feel? Oh, anyway, if I ask that question, I'm going to start family quarrels. But when you're talking to someone and their mind is somewhere else, it's very, well, what word would you use? Irritating. That's a more gentle word than I was going to use. I was going to use the word insulting. But I think irritating is, it's very, very, very disturbing. Now think of that in relationship to your japa. Are you, when you're in a conversation with someone, you're talking to someone and their mind drifts off, what conclusion do you reach? Maybe they've had a busy day, but if you're in a less generous mood. I've been in conversations with people and I notice their mind drifts off and I stop talking and they don't notice. And then I start to do something else also. So think of that situation that I just described, that Krishna is a person and you are a person. Raise your hand if you're not a person. Raise your hand if you still have your mobile phone on. Are you going to really turn it off? Promise?
Some are taking notes in mobile phone.
Huh?
Some are taking notes in mobile phone.
You're making my job very difficult now. Just turn it off. It won't hurt. It will only hurt for a second. One time I had been living in India in Vrindavan for a long time, and I was very, very many years ago too, and we didn't have any money at all in those days. And I was in New York and I needed to buy a bag. So I went into the shop. And I went into the shop, the bag shop, and I asked how much it cost. And I said, what's your best price? Of course, I said that after. And then I said, oh, too much. I walked out. Then after 5 minutes, I came back and I looked at the bag again. How much does it cost? What's your best price? And I did that about 3 or 4 times. And the person after a while just looked at me and said, just buy it. It will only hurt for a minute. And I bought it, and it only hurt for a minute. So turn off your mobile phones. It will only hurt for a minute. Then you'll forget. So you're a person, and Krishna is a person, and this is your time to be alone with Krishna. So what's the best way you can be alone with Krishna? That was that. You weren't raising your hand then? Okay. What's the best way, the topmost way you could be alone with someone? Yes, Prabhu. Yes, but that's not exactly. Sometimes I ask questions that you have to be a mind reader to know what the particular. But you forgot to raise. Oh, you did raise your hand. But yes.
Without any external disturbances connected.
Yes.
The form of holiness.
Yes, but
Attention.
what's better than attention?
To occupy
Yes, what's better than that? Yes, but what's better than that? Yes, and what does he want?
attention.
What's better than that? Yes. When you're a loving being with the person, when there's great exchanges of affection, when we chant with love, that's actually best. You know, I think it's in the 7th chapter of Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Does anyone know what that chapter is about in Chaitanya Charitamrita? Yes, that's the first chapter. This is the 7th chapter. So it's about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in 5 features, which is about the Panchatattva. But the second half of it, of the chapter, is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conversation with the Mayavadi sannyasis of Benares. And the reason Kaviraj Goswami is speaking about that is because he's showing that the Panchatattva distributed love for Krishna, prema bhakti everywhere. But the Mayavadi sannyasis of Benares, they avoided the net of Mahaprabhu's mercy, of the Panchatattva's mercy. So Mahaprabhu went there specifically to give them mercy. So in the conversation, Mahaprabhu did this in a very wonderful way, but at one point, Mahaprabhu was exhibiting, because the Mayavadis always, they say, in Vrindavan, you even see the sannyasis, they say, Namo Narayan, they address each other as Narayanam. But when Mahaprabhu, so the sannyasis were seeing Mahaprabhu, he's also a sannyasi, but he was exhibiting such an effulgence, such a big, powerful effulgence, that he was actually exhibiting the effulgence of Narayan. So Prakashananda Saraswati took him by the hand and brought him inside, and they were conversing, and Prakashananda was very touched by this very beautiful, humble young sannyasi, and he asked him about, why do you chant? Why are you chanting and dancing when you should be studying Vedanta? And Mahaprabhu, in a long answer, explained that his spiritual master, Sripad Ishwara Puri, had instructed him to chant Krishna mantra Japa sada e mantra sar. But the result of that chanting, and this is what chanting can give us on the topmost level, and this is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. Mahaprabhu said that Sri Ishwara Puri had told him, Evam vrata sapriya namakirtya jato nuragadrititita uchai hasyatyito rodita rauti gayanti unmanavan nrityadi lokabhaya. That one is so filled with ecstasy just by chanting Krishna's names that one starts to dance. Not that trying, I must dance now, everyone is dancing. And tears are pouring from the eyes and calling out and falling to the ground without caring for anyone else, lokabhaya. So Mahaprabhu, quoting Sripad Ishwara Puri, said, when one is actually experiencing love for Priyanama Kirtya, chanting the names of one's beloved Lord, this is what the soul naturally experiences. The intimacy, the loving intimacy of one's relationship with Krishna. That's the natural consciousness of the soul. So that's the best way, of course, to chant, with great love. but perhaps some of us may not be on that level when we chant. But at least we should try our best to be, as some of the devotees said, be attentive. Our consciousness is present in the chanting, knowing that I am a person and that he's a person, and I'm chanting his names, and this is my time to be with him. And what is the message that we are subtly saying if we just allow our minds to wander everywhere when it is our private time with Krishna? What is the subtle, indirect message that we are saying? Yes, Prabhu. Not only don't love, but I have more important things to do right now than to be with you. And naturally, Krishna says, okay, I also have more important things to do than be with you. So that's what we're going to concentrate on right now. Just a little practice, not practice, but practice in the sense of sadhana. But let's just try to chant attentively in such a way that we're indicating to Krishna that I want to be with you. I might not be so qualified. In fact, I know I'm not so qualified, and I know I've ignored you so many times continuously. But you don't ignore me. You stay with me. Savasya chaham videsamamisto. So let me now just try my best to be with you in the form of your holy names by chanting and hearing. But try to chant in such a way that you are pleased. At least attentively and consciously. And if my mind wanders, I'll bring it back. I'll try my best. So right now, form yourself into space permitting some groups of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. And then when you're into those groups, we're gonna begin to chant. So go ahead. Small groups. He's taking his exams. Do you go with him?
Krishna goes with me.
But just to make sure, you go with him too. Okay, now before you begin chanting, and this little one over here, you have to be very, very affectionate with him. He may not be able to chant as seriously as some of the other devotees. So before we begin to chant, just take a few moments to offer prayers to Guru Maharaj, to Vaishnavas, to Srila Prabhupada, your favorite deity, the Holy Nam, that you may actually be able to consistently try your best. And then also just be serious about this one point, that for this short private time with Krishna. Which group are you in? Which group are you in? Okay. Okay. But you have your back to that group, so that might be a little. Okay. So try your best. And when you're ready to begin, after you made your sankalpa determination, then just begin and chant Krishna's names, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, taking shelter of the Panchatattva, Guru, Vaishnavas, Prabhupada. If I can hear one Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, I'm very fortunate, beginning with Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Keep the task, the goal of attentive chanting simple for now. Just try your best. And if your mind wanders, don't worry, it's natural. Just bring it back to the simple goal of trying to be with Krishna in the form of his holy names by hearing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And try to hear especially the Hari. And if you can hear in the first Hari, Hare Krishna. And if you can hear one Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, beginning with Hari, you're very fortunate. Krishna, Krishna. If your mind wanders, just bring it back to that simple goal of being with Krishna in the form of his holy names. But keep in that mood of this is my time with Krishna. This is my time to be with Krishna in the form of his holy names. Just try your best. If your mind wanders, just bring it back and keep in mind that this is your private time with Krishna. You can be with Krishna at this time in the form of his holy names. Try your best. Ram, 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 Ram. Let's try to be sincere. Try to be sincere about being with Krishna. Try your best. If you can sit straight, and that will help. But try to hear, and if you can hear one Hare Krishna mantra beginning with Hari, you're very fortunate.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Try your best. If your mind starts wandering, or if you get bored, if your mind gets bored, pray to Krishna to help you. If you get tired, pray to Krishna to help you. Or stand up. Remember, please remember that this is a very rare time. You have nothing else to do except try your best to be with Krishna in the form of his holy names. This is your private time with Krishna. Try your best to bring your mind back to being with Krishna if it wanders. Try your best. See if you can sit up straight. See if you can be with Krishna in the form of his holy names by hearing. See if you can consider this a very rare time, your private time with Krishna. See if you can do that. See if you can hear one Hare Krishna mantra beginning with Hare. The one mantra you're chanting now. See if you can consider that you have nothing else to do now for this short time except be with Krishna in the form of his holy names. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Okay, maybe we can just stop for a few moments. And in your small groups, the groups that you're in, please discuss how your japa was and what your thoughts are, what your realizations are. Discuss. Begin. Even though you haven't finished your round. If the group is small, at most 4, then easier to discuss. Please discuss your realizations and thoughts on japa. If you have no one to discuss with yourself. And what did you realize about yourself? What did you realize about your own chanting and yourself? Another minute. Okay, Hare Krishna. So I would like to hear, I'm very curious, actually. I'm very curious to hear if anyone would like to share any realizations or thoughts one had about oneself. Raise your hand if you have like to share. Sometimes we don't want to share about ourselves. It's too embarrassing. Yes, our brahmachari.
Hare Krishna. So, very, very good.
We even have an echo. How nice.
So probably, thank you very much for the
No. I want to hear not the formal.
So when starting your talk, I was supposed to recognize that I'm really good. I have something unique over. And Japa is my private time. So when I started chanting my Japa, I was in a mood of repentance.
Competition.
So when I started chanting my Japa, I started in a mood of repentance.
Still, you have competition. That's what my mind is like when I'm trying to chant and have another voice going on.
So when I started my Japa, I started with a mood of repentance. I have not simplicity and priority and attentively chanted my Japa. In that mood, I started my Japa. But as I was progressing in my rounds, I was feeling very difficult to be attentive. A very long practice, wrong habit of being non-attentive. But whenever you would interfere in between saying, please focus, right here, one you are very fortunate. At that time, you try to focus. But again, the mind was saying that now that you are here, so we are able to focus, what will happen when you smoke later? So
These were for the realized.
What will happen when I go away?
Chanting will continue, but the intention will be determined.
Yeah. So who has to take responsibility?
I am.
So what will happen when I go away?
I will try to re-isolate whatever I learned.
By my pressure right now. But no, really, we have, I mean, I'm in the same position. One thing that would be interesting, I don't know how, have no idea how practical it is, but if one day a week, the devotees could meet here and just, how often do you have a program here?
Twice a week.
What days?
Saturday.
What would happen if everyone got together and encouraged each other to chant nice japa? Because during the week, if you did that for an hour, say an hour once a week, to remind ourselves that this is an opportunity. Chanting japa isn't a burden, something that we agreed upon when we were young, agreed to do when we were young, but now after so many years, it's very mechanical. So perhaps it would be nice, I don't know who to speak to officially about this, but it might be nice for once a week or maybe twice a week, I don't know. Just gather together for an hour and just try to chant in a way that reflects that we say Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatyanyata. It's an idea. And it certainly won't be a loss. And maybe even if 10 people come, 10 devotees come, still, it's your private time with Krishna. So, and see how much it improves your spiritual life. And you're chanting during the week. Or if this is too far away for some devotees, 5, 6, 7 devotees in somebody's house can get together. But it seems to me we have to take responsibility for for our spiritual life. And japa is such an important part of our spiritual life. But anyway, thank you for your humble comment. Anyone else? If I don't call on the devotees, see what happens is I call on the devotees in the front because they're right in front of me, and then the devotees in the back get bored. So let me call on someone from the back who, if they so desire, even if they have their mobile phones on, even though. Yes, Prabhu, did you want to say something? I always find it so interesting. I have the same tendencies too, because I like to take photographs, even though I shouldn't, because I've been asked to just imagine if I started taking photographs and would tell everyone put away your phones, and I was doing it wouldn't work very well, would it? But there's such a tendency to think of everything as a media event and who we could share it with, but without being present ourselves. So in this one event, let's try to be present as our first priority rather than sharing it, etc. Yes, Prabhu, and someone, yes, you were enthusiastic. What's your name, Prabhu? With an echo.
So I think the reminder that we should hear the holy name Hare. Because once we start hearing the first name of the Mahamantra, then it goes to the. Because I think that was a very, very point for us to consciously and consistently now remind ourselves that yes, first, let's focus on the first name.
Do you program?
Yes, long time back.
Okay. But if the first line in your program is wrong, then even if the rest are okay. Anyway, that's not a good example. Okay, forget it. Yeah.
Once we consciously chant, it becomes so smooth. Otherwise, sometimes we unconsciously chant, it might go here and there. We chant and it takes longer. And also, we don't feel that you have chanted somehow. So, thank you very much.
And then we wonder why we don't advance very much. And we blame the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Or we find someone to blame, for sure. But that is, it's so interesting that to chant attentively, at least to some degree, is so much more satisfying than chanting inattentively. I think chanting inattentively is better than not chanting at all, but chanting attentively is so much better than not chanting attentively. That's one thing I understood from what you said. But just imagine what your chanting would be like if you had love for Krishna. Just imagine what it would be like that would cause spontaneously to dance and tears to fall from your eyes. Not artificially, but just imagine the experience that Mahaprabhu was teaching us by his own example of dancing and chanting and going from place to place and just influencing so many people by his own personal experience of love for Krishna. Just imagine how powerful Krishna is in the form of his holy names. And then Dudaiva Midri Samiha Nanu. What does that mean? I'm so unfortunate. Now that's a mood to take into your chanting. Oh, Krishna, unless you're merciful to me, what hope do I have? Krishna, Krishna, please. You've made yourself so easily available in your holy names. And I even know that chanting attentively brings me more happiness than what I usually do of just allowing my mind. And yet, I'm so unfortunate that I'm attached to thousands and thousands and thousands of other things. My mind wanders from this friend to that enemy, to this circumstance, to that circumstance, and what I'm going to do tomorrow and the next day. And with my mind running so much, no wonder I'm so tired all the time. But if I could, please help me, dear holy names, dear Mahaprabhu, dear Gurus, dear Vaishnavas, dear Krishna. If we can sincerely try our best. Anyone else like to say some realization? There's another one in the back who is smiling so brightly. Yes, Prabhu. Oh, it's so Prabhu, somehow or another, the amplification isn't making it easier to hear, at least for me.
Hare Krishna.
That's even easier. At least you don't echo yourself.
Then you said that when you do start chanting with the prayers, you said so beautiful more that immediately your mind started focusing on good name. Then, but as the practice, immediately mind will start drifting away, but then bringing back was difficult. But when you said that there is no other thing to be done, then mind was, oh, I have nothing to do, let me focus on the holy name. It was much better.
Sometimes it's hard to convince the mind of that, but that's the function of the intelligence. We set aside a certain time, that's our sadhana. We set aside a certain time, that's our sadhana. This is our time for chanting. This is our time for worshiping the deity. This is our time for reading. And by the strength of intelligence and determination, we bring our mind back. At least we try our best. And then, from my own experience, our best is necessary, but it is insufficient. So then we enter the mood of prayer and dependence, of humility, actually. Trinada Pisani, Trinada Pisani. Thank you. Prabhu, did you want to say something? Or was...
In our group, when we discussed Prabhuji, the one point which came out strongly was your suggestion that we should always think that we are just with Krishna, it's our private time with Krishna, there is nothing else to do. So we came to a conclusion that it's good for us to remind ourselves every time before we chant, there is nothing else to do. That seems to be the common consensus.
Nice. And we could also do it in a scientific way, because in the sense that we can make an experiment. Because we often think the way that the mind works is that when it focuses on something, that thing becomes huge and all that's important. So we can make an experiment, and just for this short time, do nothing but chant Hare Krishna and see if the world falls apart. We can try that and see. And then if at least for a half hour we chant and the world doesn't fall apart, we can at least try another half hour. Because that's what the mind does. It sounds so funny on a certain level, but the nature of the mind, it makes something insignificant appear so huge. And we act, at least that happens to me. If I don't do this right now, if I don't turn on my mobile phone and make this very important phone call or text someone usually or something, then the universe shall cease to exist. So I have my personal responsibility to save the world by. And then when and it's so amazing, I find that I'm chanting quite well and that thought comes. And then when I do something like that, then it's so hard to enter again into improved chanting. And just with the words improved chanting, I think we should chant more, even though I'd like to. But one Mataji, any Mataji would like to say any realizations from that chanting session and talking with the other devotees? No, I know when Mataji goes like this, it means she wants to say something, but she would talk before, so she doesn't know if it's proper to. Someone else then. Yes, Mataji. I mean, ecstatic emotions? Okay. So when you chant, you feel your thoughts, negative thoughts and negative emotions come up. And hidden in that comment was perhaps some hope that I would respond to that and say what to do. Try to hear the Hare Krishna mantra beginning with Hari and say, Thoda baad mein, we'll deal with that later. Just try to be with Krishna. This is your time, not for psychological analysis, but this is your time just to be with Krishna. Just for this short time, and make an experiment and see if you survive just turning to Krishna during this time. But if it's very, very, very something very, very heavy, I don't know what to say. Maybe you have to deal with it, but maybe if you could deal with it a little bit later, if it's urgent and you have to deal with actually urgent, maybe there's some danger or something like that, then deal with it. But if it's just the mind bubbling forward, I don't mean to minimize the reality of things, but take shelter of Krishna. Try your best. And then at a different time, you can deal with all the issues that Kali Yuga twists our consciousness with. That's my suggestion. It's a simple suggestion. That just for this time, let me be with Krishna, and then I could deal with these other things perhaps later. What do you think? Yeah, just, and if you, because the mind, like the volume goes up on the mind and the ability to chant and attentively goes down. But maybe you can reverse that. Put the volume up on the chanting and that naturally, and then you pray to Krishna to help you. Do you have a deity that you love more than any other deity? Huh? He's so nice. Yes? Even though he steals butter. So ask him, maybe he can steal your mind. Okay. Now let's go back to the chanting. So before you begin, what do you want to remind yourself? Well, anyway, tell yourself, or go into your small groups and tell each other what we should remind ourselves of, or what really works for you. Are you tired now? Come up here. Yeah, come. Okay, remind yourself, and then when you're ready to begin, but make sure that you're fixed. Otherwise, if you start with the mind wandering, it can take a while before it's focused again. So please speak amongst yourself for a few moments and then begin chanting soon as you're ready. Are you okay? Because you looked a little tired there for a while, and it's probably hard for you to just, well, it's hard for everyone. What do you do when you get bored though?
I just try to pray to Krishna. I get my attention for some time, then I lose it.
Yeah. And if it gets too difficult for you, you can stand up and look at the deities, or you can walk outside and come back. Just don't put too much pressure on you. Okay? Hare Krishna. Please don't spend too much time speaking right now, because we want to spend some time chanting. Just try your best to use this time very wisely. And if sitting up straight, you can try that. See if you can enter into good chanting. Or attentive chanting. If you can enter into love-filled chanting, wonderful. Try your best. In the form of Japa at least. Just a few minutes left. See if you can exercise your full sincerity in these minutes. If you so desire to be closer to Krishna in service and devotion. Okay, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I feel awkward saying stop chanting, so I won't. But I have a question for you. When I said we have only a few minutes left, I said it two separate times. When I said there's only a few minutes left, did that help your focus or make it more difficult to focus? Raise your hand. Yes. Okay, yes. Yes. Anyone else? Yeah. Yes.
Easier for
Easier.
It helps some people, it seems, and makes more difficult others. That's what I've seen. Some people would say, oh, a few minutes left, I can leave work early. And some people, oh, yes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, break into groups, same small group, and discuss your japa. Maybe compare the first session to the second session when you were chanting. Please. Hare Krishna.
Prahlad from Bangalore.
Yes, my old friend Pralad.
Just as a thank you gift, I would like to.
What is it? Oh, should I open it up and see?
Yes,
Right now?
yours.
Is that your handwriting or your mom's?
That's mine.
Pretty good. I can't resist. Pens. I love pens. And I need a book because look,
Almost over.
yeah, only a few more pages left. I was
Just a
thinking, what will I do?
It's a big diary.
Okay. Wow, just what I need. You have to figure out what to do with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you need that pen because now I have two new ones.
Thank you.
All right. Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Raise your hand if you found your chanting better in the first. When you're sleeping. Oh, you're only one person. Now, how many people? I'll tell you the question first. You'll know what you're getting into. If the first session your chanting was better, or the second session, or both equal, that's the third alternative. First session. Second session. Both equal. It could be equally good or equally bad. I don't know yet. Or equally better, could be also. Okay, we have a few more minutes. Anyone have any questions? Raise your hand. Yes, a lot more questions than time probably. Yes, Prabhu. Everyone, please. Please listen. Unfortunately, I'm unable to hear. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so we were discussing.
Hare Krishna. Because about the Prabhu was discussing, and one of the devotees said that he meditates sometimes on the name of the Lord, and sometimes on the pastimes, and sometimes on the form of the Lord. Then another devotee said that he remembers some of the pastimes of the Lord, and then he remembers the Shastra, which gives reference to chanting. And then he also sometimes remembers the opulence of the Lord while chanting. So all these are supposed to be non-different from the Lord. But the question here was, what is the right object of meditation when we chant the holy names of the Lord?
Yes. A good question, of course. Why we choose to hear attentively, try for that. There's a few reasons, but that's something that we can most easily do with our will by deciding I'm going to do this. Just by our attempt, we can enter into that. But the idea in attentive chanting is to be able to listen and hear. Now, if one thinks of photos, not photos, but the Lord's form, and it should naturally increase one's intensity to hear, intensity of hearing, and the same thing with the pastimes, because that the hearing would increase, just like if one calls out the name of one's beloved child, and one naturally thinks of the form of the child or the person or the qualities of that child, the hearing will be enhanced when I'm calling out. So I suggest that that's the standard to know if it's working or not working, what we're doing. Sometimes devotees will look at a photo of the Lord. Sometimes devotees will look at the deities, the wonderful, wonderful deities, sometimes thinking of the wonderful pastimes, and actually thinking of the pastimes is perfection. But we shouldn't unnaturally do that in a way that distracts us, because for that reason, it can distract us. And just like I can think of, now while I'm chanting, I'm going to think of the form of the Lord. I'm going to think of my favorite deity. So I'm thinking of, say, the deities in Vrindavan. And then I'm thinking, oh, Krishna, Balaram, Radha, Sundar, Gaura is so beautiful. If it's natural, that will enhance our chanting and hearing. But if it's a little unnatural, we can easily fall into, yeah, I can't wait till I go to Vrindavan again. Maybe I should book my ticket. Now, should I travel by train or by plane? It's so hard to travel by plane because now they've raised the prices so much, and then I end up in Delhi and train. It takes so long, and then how much food? What kind of food should I take on the train? And what happens if I sit next to and they just talk about politics, Indian politics, and Indian politics? I wonder who's going to win the next election anyway. So the mind can easily drift if there's not enough attachment there. And we could do, and from what I've seen, there's no magic formula. But the way to judge whether what we're doing is working or not, is good, productive or not, is if it enhances our hearing and focus. What to speak of devotion and love. So, in Bhakti Sundar Bhashila Jiva Goswami describes the natural progression of going from name to form to qualities to Leela, because Leela is so wonderful because it combines all of those. Yeah. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Yeah.
Any other question? Yes, Mataji. Yes. Krishna is present in his holy name. In other words, how do we get Krishna to fully manifest while we're chanting? Is that the question? Yes.
How do we get his reciprocation? He's in a form. Now, how do we get his reciprocation?
I missed one word. I caught the reciprocation, but when we're chanting, how do we get his reciprocation? So I took that a little bit differently, although I could ask the question, what reciprocation would you like?
Reciprocation is form
With what? See, Mataji, you're dealing with someone who is very independent. This may be hard for us to accept, but he does what he wants. But yet, if we love him, we can control him. But the purpose of learning to love him is not so we can get what we want. It is to please him. So that's why I took your question first. How can we get him to manifest and in his full presence in the holy name when we're chanting? And that is if we chant with love, with prema. So how do we chant with prema? That takes falling in love with Krishna. That means knowing his name, form. We have to get to know him and qualities. But then even that, he does what he wants. In the words of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he is the transcendental autocrat. That means just that. We can't tell him what to do. How does that make you feel? You want to find someone else? I once had that experience that I was looking many, many years ago. That's my excuse. I was looking at this painting of Krishna. And in this painting, there were cows, but not one cow or 2 cows or 10 cows or 20 cows or 30 cows. There were unlimited cows to the end of the border of the painting. There were unlimited cows and Krishna was there and they were all around Krishna. And then I thought, Krishna has unlimited servants, unlimited cows, unlimited people who love him as cowherd boys, gopis. mothers, fathers, the trees, unlimited servants. And then I thought, all the top positions are filled. And then I thought, maybe I'm in the wrong movement. So do you understand my joke? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if the desire of the devotee is, how can I serve him? And that's natural when there is loving affection, because he's so attractive and so wonderful, and he's a person. So naturally, he will reciprocate if we have with the affection of the devotee. But even if we make an attempt that's really small to get closer to him, he will reciprocate. But sometimes his reciprocation is that he makes believe he's not reciprocating. And then how do we react to that? Do we find another person? Or do we say, you've caught me now, what can I do? I'm your servant. You can treat me as you like. That's Mahaprabhu's teachings. Okay? Hare Krishna. Did you want to ask something? Or you? Yeah.
My question is, like some devotees are they're very happy with their chanting, even though they were very happy.
Who? Where are those devotees? I want to find them.
I've seen some senior devotees.
Oh, how wonderful.
And other way,
Later, you tell me who they are so I can serve them. We need to
engage in the service of the Lord. So when we engage in the service of the Lord, we can start this. So now the one first category, the devotee who is very happy.
only chanting,
Always,
always and only chanting.
always and only.
Yeah.
So in that case, and second case, devotees are serving whatever services and going out and coming and chanting. So these devotees should reach there, and that devotee should reach there. What is the decision?
Your echo made me not understand the question, the end part of the question.
Prabhuji, first category is devotee.
I understood that part.
Second category.
Yes, understood that part.
So now my conclusion is either this devotee should reach to that destination or that devotee should reach to this destination. Which is the ultimate?
But yeah, but chanting is also service. Devotional service defined in Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, etc. So it's not that chanting is not service, but 2 points I would like to make. One is that to always chant constantly like Thakur Haridas or Srila Rupa Goswami isn't so easy. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur especially, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Prabhupada especially, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he criticized those who aren't really on that platform of bhava and were imitating Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami just by changing dress. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wrote a poem in this way that Dushtamana, this wicked mind, is trying to get the glory, pratishtadi, I can't remember the exact words, to get the pratishta, the glory of being an exalted devotee, so I will go and make believe I can do Nirjan Bhajan, alone chanting continuously like Thakur Haridas. But then what's going on in my mind? It is not so easy to do that. One has to have a transcendental mind to be able to do that. And one doesn't get a transcendental mind by saying, from now on, I'm going to have a transcendental mind and only chant. So, because that tended to breed hypocrisy. So, therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and especially Srila Prabhupada, stressed not that we shouldn't always chant, but that we should use everything in Krishna's service and see everything in relationship with Krishna, because that is the capacity of most people. And then when we're older and more mature, but it doesn't have to be older because it could be in a previous life, then we can take up Nirjan Bhajan. So that's one point. But there's another point, is that sometimes there are souls who are so pure that every thought is one of service and love for Krishna. And they see the world as such a need. And if one wants to disturb one's mind, one just looks on the internet for what's going on in the world. There's war here, there's threat of nuclear war, threat of economic disaster and divorce and children abandoned and children being killed and this and that. It's so disgracefully horrible. And there's no security, and people are so much anxiety, that there's such a need in this world for purity, that sometimes exalted devotees say, okay, I'll do this. Even though on one level they're always chanting, because every thought, every action is one of devoted service. So that's two different points on that. So if you say, which is better, it's like going to a doctor and saying, which medicine is better? Well, it depends what first he has to take your pulse or some way examine you and understand what level your disease is, and then a treatment is prescribed. So the Krishna consciousness movement is very much a preaching movement. And Prabhupada even said, without preaching, the movement becomes rubbish, which is a very hard word. It means useless and worse. Because the mood of Prabhupada was, and Krishna says it in the Bhagavad Gita, that if you preach, you gain piety because you please Krishna, because it's such an austerity to preach. Previously, the Goswamis, they were so detached from the world of matter, so detached. When one reads in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antilila 6 or 5 we read about Ramananda Roy, and 6 we read about Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami didn't eat at all, but he wasn't thinking, I'm not going to eat. He was absorbed internally. And Ramananda Roy, he was training these young ladies, but it's not that he was thinking I have to control my mind even. He was absorbed on such a different level. So, because those kind of people are very rare. So Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur said that to act on that level without, as if you were on that level, without attaining the stage of bhava, this is incorrect. Where you're actually taking shelter of the internal energy, not the external energy. So, so the preaching movement, and Prabhupada once told myself and Jagatrini Mataji, my wife, we was in the Philippines, he said, it is my desire that everyone in the universe becomes Krishna conscious. You please help me fulfill that desire. So there's room for everyone because the vision is so big. And not only is there room for everyone, but everything can be engaged in Krishna's service as opposed to renounced, like the Goswamis renounced. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he fought this battle of Yukta Vairagya, using everything in Krishna's service. And this was the step towards Ragmarg. So, what do you think? So there's room for everyone to have some service. I mean, none of the Goswamis were IT people, for example. You know, They gave up everything, including the source of their eating. And they could do that because of their deep, deep attachment on the spiritual level. So we must say that the level of constant chanting, that's ideal. But when we still have some passion left in us, let us use everything in Krishna's service. And if we're fortunate, if we serve properly, sincerely, and we're fortunate, then one day we may come to the stage when we can always chant Hare Krishna in ecstasy and be fully satisfied. So is this the way to become that? So your question is something like, if someone's is becoming a quantum physicist, the best way to learn 1 and 1 is 2. Well, to get there, you have to go through the different stages, either in this life or in previous life. And if someone is actually pure and can chant, how exalted. But someone who is actually pure and can constantly chant, and yet out of their compassion decides to help all the fallen souls, Prabhupada push that vision as that's the most pleasing to Krishna. Like the parents can identify with this maybe more than, well, you can understand it too. It's so simple. When if the children are in difficulty and someone decides to help the children come up, the father is so pleased, naturally. So that's a way to compensate for our lack of piety and purity, is to get some special blessing from Krishna by going the austerities of preaching when we don't have that piety and purity ourselves. Because it's such an austerity to preach, actually. In Kali Yuga, it's very difficult. Have you read the Prabhupada Lamrita, those volumes where Prabhupada was first in New York and then was in California, San Francisco? Have you read that? Huh? When he was dealing with the hippies in San Francisco, and they were basically, they didn't have any idea of the culture. They didn't have any idea of the philosophy. I once was listening to a lecture, maybe you've heard it, where someone asked, well, Prabhupada is speaking about that Krishna's form is eternal. He's a person and his form is eternal. This was in 1966. And he's saying Krishna's form is eternal. You'll never see a picture of Krishna as an old man. And then he said, have you? Long pause. Have any of you ever seen a picture of Krishna? That's what Prabhupada said next. So can you imagine? We can't imagine what it was like for Prabhupada coming from, as a cultured, aristocratic, elderly sannyasi, where do you begin? You get them to chant Hare Krishna and you get them to read Bhagavad Gita, but you have to be so patient, so patient, so patient. Like one time in San Francisco, no, this was in New York. These people, after the kirtan, Prabhupada asked for questions, or after the lecture, and these people were all taking drugs, not the devotees, but so someone asked Prabhupada, how do you compare chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna consciousness to LSD? Now, one is a drug and the other is spiritual ecstasy. And how are you going to describe what it's like for the residents of Vrindavan in ecstasy to associate with Krishna. So how did Prabhupada answer that? So he said, it is like an ocean of LSD. What are you going to say? I said, oh, must be very nice. So no one else could have done this. So how, and then when Prabhupada saw that Krishna was reciprocating with him and giving him everything, and more men, and more money, and more book distribution, and more temples, and more this, and more that, then he started expanding more the scientific preaching and this preaching and rural farm communities. Whatever Krishna was going to give him, he was going to take that and use it in Krishna's service. So we're resting on his mercy and his kindness, because his kindness was carrying the mercy and kindness of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the Guru Parampara, and Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, the Goswamis, Radha and Krishna, all of Vrindavan. What do you think? I don't know if I answered your question, but it was so much fun answering it. Any other interesting, stimulating? Someone who hasn't asked a question yet. Yes. You have a good loud voice too, and we don't. Can you echo also?
I think it's fine, right?
Yes. Oh, it's powerful. I think it's wonderful.
Prabhuji, the question is that once we have our private time with Krishna, that is our one-on-one with him, what do we talk? What do we talk once we have our one-on-one with Krishna?
We talk. What do we say to him?
Yes.
You mean after or during?
During when we are having, like during the japa. What should be our mood? Like, should we apologize for or like should we try to convey to him how exactly we are trying to love him? What should be our mood and what should we talk about?
Well, first, again, it's the point about hearing. So we don't want to get distracted too much by, this is my time to get together. So therefore I have so many things I want to tell you. And then you bring out your book. And it's mostly a list of all the things you want. Or long apologies for all the things that you've done. And he might fall asleep. But I think the main thing is the hearing again. So you can't get, at least I didn't mean that this is a time, you can have your time with the deities anytime when they're open, to tell them everything. And Prabhupada once said in Vrindavan that if you have a problem you can't solve, go to Balaram and tell him. Maybe he was thinking that at least they won't all come and tell me all their problems, but no, he wasn't thinking that. But that's what he said, if you have a problem you can't solve. So I always send people to Balaram like that. And one time, this is a true story, but I've told this before probably, but it happened many years ago, maybe 30 years ago, 35, even when I was living in Vrindavan. Some devotees came, some devotee was preaching in Iran, complete Muslim country, and he brought some devotees to Vrindavan. And he brought them to me too, and other devotees to preach to them or something. So after I spoke to them, one Mataji who couldn't speak any English and a translator stayed behind and said, I can't relate to the deities. I'm brought up in a Muslim family, Islamic family, and we're taught that all this is the worst thing, the deities. And, so I can't relate to the deities. So so I started preaching philosophy, explaining how it's material energy, spiritual energy, it's Krishna's energy. He can manifest himself in the material energy, on and on. And it didn't touch her, convince her at all. So I remembered what Prabhupada said. So I said, go and tell it to Balaram. So, and I gave her some hints. Have you been to Krishna Balaram Mandir? Yeah. So I explained how to use your elbows to get close to the deities. And I told her to go right in front of Balaram, Krishna Balaram, and then use your elbows to hold on the railing. You have to get your spot like that. And then I said, then you tell him everything. You can speak in any language, you speak in Farsi, but you tell him everything from beginning to end. You're born in a Muslim family, but you have to be 100% truthful. So you're born in a Muslim family, you can't believe in deities, you tell them everything until you have no more to say, and then just wait. Someone has their mobile phone on. And then she left with the translator. And then I went about whatever I was doing. And then about 45 minutes later, she came back and said, now I believe. I have no idea what happened. So Krishna is there always. When the deities are open, Sisi Gaunataya, so wonderful. Srila Prabhupada in his Murti form is there. For you to talk to continuously, as long as the deities are open. But during Japa, it's a little bit different. It's your time to be with him by hearing and chanting and being with him. And sometimes some spontaneous, I'm such a rascal, I need mercy, that can come out or like that. But we don't want to get too much into just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. We want to get into hearing and hearing his holy name more at that particular time. So do you have deities that you have a relationship with that you can tell everything to?
Yep, we stay in base, so yeah, we do that.
Very fortunate. Okay, last question. Oh, this is too hard. Okay, questions are over. This is too hard. Because I'm going to get into so much trouble anyway, because it's already late. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Kal Sube. 10 baje ekdam. No mobile phone. Hare Krishna. Oh yes, one last thing is that please try your best tomorrow before you come to chant in a way that that expresses your sincerity, or the best part of you, we could say, in associating with Krishna. Please try your best tomorrow morning, and we'll see how we do when we again meet at 10 o'clock. Hare Krishna.
Look, it's a great fortune to have your association again. I'm feeling grateful to so many personalities now. To Shigar, who has brought you here. And also it's a great fortune to get association of devotees who are so deeply absorbed in thoughts of serving Srila Prabhupada and mentioning the holy names of Prabhupada.
So very grateful to you, Prabhuji. So now we will call upon Prabhu for the distribution of books of Prabhuji, related to Japa and also the other books which are there.